Aloha! Welcome to Island Time. This is our Week 8 preview. This is BuckMetrics, joined as always by Robert Martin, and joined as always on Island Time by our guy Duck. Gentlemen, couple of big games this week. We talked about one in the main pod, but there are a couple of really good games here. And also, we are halfway through the season, so special treat instead of the usual Quacks, aka Q&A for Duck session, we are going to have our mid-season awards. So I am delighted about this. It took me a while to pare down my all my nominees just to one winner on my end. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I had to go through it, and I picked my stuff. Some of them are a lot easier than others, I will say, like 100%. But overall, it's not hard to pick. For some of them, like I mean, obviously I'll give one away. Mid-season Heisman. That one was actually surprisingly easy for me. But
I struggled with that.
yeah, I think I think I'll have a bit of a controversial pick there. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So I think Robert's got Nico for his mid-season Heisman. Then, just my guess. So, all right. You guys ready to talk about some games?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Let's
This will be
do
good.
it. All right. First one. I believe this is a Friday night game. Is it not?
Yes.
Louisville at Miami. Okay, at Miami, Florida. Good one here. I like this. Robert alluded to this. I think Robert had a little calamity prediction here. We'll just confirm that. Miami giving 13. Don't know if this one is moved. That seems like a fair line. Let me grab my laser pointer here, please. All right. You know, I've actually remarked that Miami, their offense has not been that great, and you can see that here in their offensive rating is just a 5.7. But I look up here at the descriptives, not bad. 149 Apex Plus for Carson Beck is really good. Pretty explosive, nowhere near as last year. Miami actually, I think, led the country, or they're like definitely top three in the Ryan per game. Pretty good, not great running game. I guess I'll just pat myself on the back real quick here. Really good pass defense, basically at the level of Indiana going into last week's game, and by my metric, the best run defense in all of FBS for Miami. Put it all together. I'm coming up with my model's coming up with Miami only by 11. Athena has Miami by 24. Athena leans heavier. Athena, we pointed out in the Week 8 preview in the main body pod, really likes that Notre Dame Miami game. Just a lot of positive coming from that. So I've got differing opinions within my two models here on this one. Robert has Miami by 10. Boy, there's really two sides to the narrative here. So the models are really split here. From a narrative standpoint, short week, Louisville on the road, always kind of tricky for a Friday. You've got a great defense here against the Miller Moss, who's better at Louisville than he was at USC. I'm just, look, everything points to Miami pretty big here just on the narrative side, except there's that head coach. His name starts with an M and ends with an Ario, and he does really dumb things in the fourth quarter. Maybe this could be the game. Maybe Corey Heatherman takes it apart. Duck, you look about 20% like Corey Heatherman. Has anybody ever mentioned that to you, by the way?
Have
Got
not
a
heard
little bit
that
of a
one
Heatherman
before.
look. Yeah, a much kinder face. But yeah, you get a little bit. So I don't have a play on this, although I do see. Boy, how did I miss this? This looks like an underplay. Maybe Robert's model kept me from doing that. Oh no, yeah, it's an underplay for me. We said in the main preview here. So this is interesting. I want to bet Miami despite what my main model thinks. Robert's model's not really giving it a go sign either. I I might just be drinking the Miami Kool-Aid too much. So, Duck, am I just like looking too hard here, or is this a playable game for you?
It's tempting. I mean, I don't trust Mario Cristobal laying big numbers, and he has had a propensity in the past to really flub games up. This is like the perfect quintessential Mario Cristobal. We're going to flub this up like they almost did last year against Virginia Tech. They lost against Louisville at home as 3 touchdown favorites. They always have one game per season where they just throw up a complete stinker, and this is like prime for the taking here, but situationally and schematically, Louisville does not run the football very well. Just 2 yards per carry on the ground against Virginia, 1.56 yards per carry on the ground against Pitt, 3 yards per carry against James Madison University. And the pass protection is not going to be as such that you'll need to pin down this Miami front seven. I mean, this unit is going to be coming after Miller Moss. The tackles for loss, the sack numbers, the havoc, just creating pressure in his face is going to be big-time trouble, in my opinion, for Louisville. So I agree with the underassessment as well. We shouldn't see a lot of pace. Probably a feeling out process in the first quarter. Total has come down to 51 or even 50 and a half at some places, so maybe a little value gone there. You'd probably want 52 and a half or higher to go under, but I would lean Miami in this situation. You know, the Canes are just really buttoned up. Despite the final score against Florida State 22-28, it was 19-0 in the fourth quarter for the Seminoles. That was 28-3 entering the fourth. That was an absolute butt kicking. And every game this season, except for the Notre Dame game, has been such. So I don't know. I don't think Louisville has the horses here, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is, boy, I didn't really realize this until you pointed it out, just kind of the underplay. Louisville, a sneaky under team here, too, with, like, okay, kind of basically an average ACC offense and sneaky good defense. Didn't realize that. I kind of mentioned it a while ago, I think a few weeks ago, but their defense is hanging in there. Yeah, so I do think the end is a play here. It just seems so that like Braum is that just one of those like guys that can kind of just wait for Mario to step in it too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Robert, are you all right? You've actually got this going over, and you're going against both my wishes here. Over and Louisville covering, although not by much.
Yeah, I actually grabbed this on a look ahead at 14 and a half. So I felt like I saw that line. I'm like, that's too much. I think. Could I see this ending on exactly 14? Yeah, and then I get the cover that way. So the thing is with this game is that I like when you look at Florida and yeah, Miami of Florida, not Florida. Well, I mean, I'm gonna mention Florida here in a second. But when you look at Florida and Miami and you see, oh, they played Florida. They played USF, and then they played Florida State. And, I mean, those are basically the only other... Actually, I think those are literally the only other three teams, FBS teams in the state of Florida, with, like, some exceptions. FIU, whatever. But those ones are the three big ones. And, okay, that win against Florida, where they only won by about, I think it was 19 or 18 or something like that, that is actually roughly what Texas A&M did. And Texas A&M is, like, okay, but not amazing. USF, yeah, they crushed USF, and that win against USF looks really good. But that win against Florida State, when they were favored by 3.5, won by 6, and then they came in and they were lean by a lot. Florida State came back in. Okay, it looked like, yep, okay, these are the two best teams in the ACC. And then Florida State lost to Virginia, and then Florida State lost to Pitt. So there's a lot of pieces to this where it's kind of like, hey, you know what, maybe the team, like, they looked really good beating those teams, and even to a lesser extent Notre Dame too, right? Like, they looked really, and this actually would have impact on this. If Miami loses this game, or this game is even remotely competitive, just immediately take your like, if you bet on Miami in this game, this is close, take the profits, immediately go bet on USC. It's basically like a two-leg parlay at this point. So this is the thing. It's like, looking back on some of those wins, they may not be as good. And one of the problems with like the AP and the polls, even the pipeline poll, to be fair, once a team gets up there, unless you have a good reason to drop them down, teams don't really drop in any of the polls. Mm-hmm. And again, a good reason is like they looked bad. But if a team they beat looks bad, people just say, whatever, that doesn't matter because they got to that rank, right? Then like if Florida loses to Texas A&M badly, that's not counted, right? If Florida State loses the next two games after they beat them, no one cares about that, right? But our models care about that. Our models pick up on that. And our models are saying, hey, it shouldn't be 13. It should be closer to like 10, right? And I think that matters. So, and again, we know Cristobal. The second people think, okay, they've got it figured out now. It's happened at Oregon. It happened at Miami the last 2 years. The second people are like, they've got it figured out now, nothing can stop them, which a minus 14.5 line would suggest, that's when things start falling apart. So that's why I'm on Louisville here. it's partly a model play, but it's also partly a they're due for something bad to happen game, and I think this is that for them.
Not to say, hey, you got a bad number. I'm just kind of curious, and this isn't my move. This is more a move that you guys kind of mentioned here. Do you think midway through the third quarter you can get better than plus 14 on Louisville? Or you will be able to get better than plus 14 on Louisville? I'm just curious. You guys know this market better than I do.
So you mean like Miami's up by like 3 scores and you can get like plus
Yeah.
18 and a half? I see. Again, it's gonna be either Florida wins this by I keep calling it Florida. Either
Well,
Miami
you're stuck
wins
on
this, yeah. Either Miami wins this by like 3 scores, and they're up like 20, but they're up like 4 scores in the fourth, or it's like the spread is the live spread is like 3.5 one way. It's like Miami minus 3.5 or Louisville minus 3.5. I only see this game going those two ways. Like the 14 and a half, like again, we've talked about the kind of like inverse bell shape. Like I don't see a game where, and it could happen, I don't know, but like could I see a game where they just kind of trade punches on offense, kind of like the last year's iteration of this matchup? Sure, I can kind of see that. Obviously, Miami's defense is a lot better this year. Louisville's offense is taking a bit of a step back, but so has Miami's offense too. Miami's offense of this year is not Miami's offense of last year. So I can kind of see that, but I kind of see a game where each team is able to score. Miller Moss has been pretty good at Louisville. Carson Beck is kind of due for a bit of a regression game. And Louisville's defense is like surprisingly not bad. Like, and I think that's kind of the important point here. Like, if you had said last year, yeah, Louisville's defense is going to be an 8.6, would you have believed that?
I wouldn't have planned on it. I'll put it that way.
Exactly, right? Like their
yeah.
defense is slightly better than expected here, and I think
Yeah.
I kind of think that Louisville could, if there's a team that they can get caught sleeping under
Yeah.
or sleeping on, it could maybe be this.
Yeah, you're talking me. I guess you're talking me into. I don't think Louisville's going to score a lot here. Miami's defense is just too good. But yeah, Miami's offense is not. To your point, I'm not repeat everything. Not as good as people think, and they're facing a sneaky good D. You're kind of talking into my original play, which is basically just the under, and don't try to get fancy on the side here.
Yeah.
So, okay. And you did that without like making me look smart, which is very skillful on your side. So, well done. Okay, a classic old former Big Ten West battle. Nebraska giving 6 at Minnesota. This line was as of Sunday night. I fully expect this to have moved by now. Do either of you have a more current line on this one?
Yeah, 8.5.
Okay, that makes more sense. I just didn't get it, and I've kind of, I was defending Minnesota, a bit last year as a little underrated, and probably there's a little of that too. Nebraska 5-1, still not running the ball all that well, but Raiola's been a lot better this year than last year. Surprisingly explosive for a Matt Rule team, not kind of what you would think about. Really stingy pass defense here. Not as awesome on the ground. Minnesota's still good running defense. Who is the quarterback from Minnesota? I'm drawing a blank here. Is it? It was
Drake
a
Lindsay.
transfer. Okay. So it was a homegrown guy that just like kind of popped up through the depth chart. The thing is that this, the Minnesota offense here is just a big problem. I really, I guess I'm kind of in the ask permission game here. Now, if it's up to 8.5, this is even less margin. My model has Nebraska by 12. Athena has them by 15. Roberts, I don't know if I'm kind of somewhere between Athena and Roberts' model here. I don't know if Roberts' a little aggressive. Roberts' model is a little aggressive. Nebraska's not a high flying team, although boy, I look here at this pass defense from Minnesota, and Raiola might be able to have his way. Ooh, I don't like that from Minnesota, especially that Ryan. So, I guess, Duck, this is one of those where I'm kind of asking for permission to take Nebraska. That's the side I want? Is that like the smart side here?
I mean, that's the way that I would probably lean. I kind of give Nebraska a bit of a free pass. First road game last week. against Maryland. They hadn't played a road game this season. They played a neutral site game against Cincinnati. Otherwise, they've been at home. And it just looks a little bit different when you go on the road in league play for the very first time. But I think there's a real issue with Minnesota just not being very good offensively. I feel like this team can't really do a lot well, and if Nebraska is able to stop the run, which they're not very good at, but if Nebraska can kind of truncate what Minnesota's able to do on the ground and force Minnesota into passing situations, that could be major, major trouble. Nebraska has an elite secondary per the metrics, really strong against the pass, and Minnesota needed a major comeback win last week against Purdue, was completely shut down by Ohio State, shut down by California. I just don't think this team does a lot operationally well on offense. They struggle in the red zone. They struggle on third down. There's really just no real punch with this group. So, yeah, I'm not... a game like this, you'd think PJ Fleck would be able to draw something up, and it's like, oh, over a touchdown, you've got to take Minnesota. But I don't think so here. I just don't think the Gophers are very good.
Yeah, I'm kind of just going to use what I was referencing with the SEC. Look, this isn't classic Minnesota, to your point, and giving them a touchdown is not like giving last year's team more than a touchdown. I guess, Robert, if I look at the metrics here, I don't even see like the path for like, okay, Minnesota kept it. I don't have the path. I don't see the narrative like, oh, Minnesota kept it close by X. They don't really run the ball well. Their passing game stinks. It not stinks, but it's pretty staid, I guess I'd say. They have a good run defense, and that's it. But their pass defense is really shockingly poor against a really good team. I just, do you see any kind of narrative here about, oh, Minnesota gets there, keeps it within 2 scores by some way? What is that way? I don't see it.
It's weird. One thing I will say about this is Nebraska has been very bad ATS. They've been winning games, but they have not been good ATS. They're 1-5 ATS. They started off the season not covering against Cincinnati, and now we're here. The one thing is, it's funny because a lot of people made the joke that Raiola, because he emulates Mahomes a lot, is that he also emulates him in not covering the spread. He always wins by the smallest amount. But no, my model really likes Nebraska here, and I although I'm not necessarily, I don't think I've actually bet this spread yet because it'd go blow up to 8.5. I still think my model would like it at 8.5. The play I'm playing here is Raiola over passing touchdowns. I think that's actually a pretty good way to play. We're clearly seeing the passing offense here as punching through, so I kind of like that angle to this.
Yeah,
and I'll say this too.
No, please go ahead.
Nebraska team total over is one I'd consider. When you look at Minnesota, they have some major guys on the injured list. They're really banged up in the back seven. Maverick Baranowski, Garrison Monroe, Aiden Goodsby, Mike Gerald, all major contributors in the back seven, either at linebacker or in the secondary, all questionable or ruled out. So they're really, really thin at those secondary positions. I would unquestionably lean to Nebraska team total over. It's probably going to be 28.5, but that's the way I would lean there.
And this is a team that struggled on defense, earlier, and I guess when those guys are healthy too. So that only feels, figures to get worse. I was going to ask you. It almost, you hate to see when the number crosses a key number like 7. I'm going to say I think that the market just got it wrong, and they should have anchored more towards a 10 than a 7. I think it crossed the number because people just said, yeah, you missed this one right away, because that's a big number to cross. So I'll play Nebraska here for just a little bit, like a quarter of a unit or something, because it's not a model play, but it's close enough. And I think just common sense kind of pushes it over. So, okay. Mountain West game. My designated over team here, Air Force, with, my gosh, just fat numbers up and down in the in the Air Force column, which means over. Apex Plus at 217. My gosh, they run the ball. Actually, if you look at this Ryan 177. That was, I think, far more than Minnesota. As I talked about in the main pod this week, this Air Force is not just to throw it 3 times a game and catch them off guard. I mean, they throw a lot more. As I also mentioned in the last pod, I did correct myself. They like to tackle. It's just about 10 or 12 yards downfield from the line of scrimmage. This 249 apex, my gosh, that is that is rough. Not really good at stopping the run either. You know, Wyoming. This is, I think, I'm not going to say this is classic Wyoming. They seem to pass the ball a little better. I'm kind of used to this Apex Plus here, instead of being 86 from Wyoming, closer to like in your 60s or 70s. Not really great at running the ball either. I think explosive kind of out of necessity because they don't really run. Not a great defense either. My model, the one I'm going to bring this up is again starting with the Air Force narrative / hypothesis here, as them just being one of the ultimate over teams here. I've got the total at 75. Athena's got it at 78, and then Robert's model ran in and pooped all over the parade with a total of 55. Thank you very much, Robert. Air Force is just such an over team, and I know Wyoming's not dynamic, but it just seems that Air Force is just, they're so obliging on defense and just dynamic on offense that the 58.5 seems like a low number. That's weird to say for an academy team. So what do you think of the total here, Duck? Are you looking at the over like I am? Or just have you kind of, I guess, taken a step back since you're just closer to the market than Robert and I? Do you think the market's cut up to Air Force as like just a really good over team?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're starting to see their games in the 60s. They played Navy a couple of weeks back, and that Service Academy total opened at 55.5. Normally that's coming in at 39.5. So I think they're catching up. The offensive resurgence for Air Force has been a real pleasant surprise. The Flyboys are second in FBS in offensive success rate and 8th in finishing drives. They get down into the red zone. They score touchdowns. They're running the triple option with the ground game efficiently, but not explosively. But the development of Liam Zarka at quarterback has just been absolutely tremendous. 200 passing yards per game and 10 passing touchdowns. Like, who is this team? This isn't Air Force football. But it's really been needed. 3rd and 4th down, they've been rock solid. But the defense has just been absolutely atrocious. 45 points per game against FBS competition. 500 yards per game given up. 81st in defensive success rate and 98th in finishing drives. And I don't know how they're that high. Because this if you look at the secondary grade outs per PFF, which is an advanced metrics website, Air Force has the worst secondary grades, not only in the conference, but in the entire country by a wide margin. They're a step slow. They don't know what they're doing. They can't cover anybody. They are completely lost out there in the secondary. They're giving up 300 yards per passing per game against every FBS opponent this season. And so the question pertaining to this total is, can Wyoming take advantage of it? I think ever since they played Colorado, they've kind of found something a little bit offensively. I think there was a little bit of a handicap with the poor weather against UNLV, and then they had some special teams gaffes. But they obviously had their offense humming in the second half last week against San Jose State, and I think they'll be able to move the ball here too. I love the over in this matchup. It's the only way I would look.
Yeah, I think you're right that it does come down to, can Wyoming just do their part to make it happen? What do you think, Robert? Now, you might remember Caden Anderson, Wyoming quarterback, was on the bum list a few weeks ago, too. So that's an area of concern. Of course, I want to just give some perspective. This 249 defensive Apex Plus for Air Force is just absurd. That's like, it's a galaxy beyond Caleb Williams' Heisman year.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. And again, I don't think Air Force has played many Power 5 teams at all, have they?
And they typically don't.
No, but like, what would that look like? Like, is that do they put 50 on them? Like more? Like, what does it even look like if they played? Because what's their record? Their record is, what's Air Force's record? 1-5. Oh, so they're not gonna make a bowl.
Air Force is?
Yeah, they could make a bowl. They have winnable games coming up. They lost by 3 to UNLV, lost by 3 to Navy, lost by a touchdown or so to Hawaii. Yeah, they've been close.
Maybe, but it's gonna be a long. So we don't get to see them in like in a bowl and see like an 80 total in a bowl game. But no, it's I think the over is worth a play here. My model is kind of really low on it for some reason. But I think it's because of the running. I think maybe my model kind of underestimates how two run teams because they're both of them are kind of Wyoming's more of a passing team, but Air Force is more of a running team, as we know. So I think the model is maybe just overestimating, maybe underestimating that how quickly they can run. Right? There's not really a dynamic of like how fast they can run. It's just kind of more of a static. So I think in that case, then I think I think over is fine here. I kind of like the overplay.
Yeah, they have a SWAC. They have a SWAC secondary. That's what you have to power rate them at. They're way down there with Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Tennessee Martin, Indiana State. They are way, way bad. The Air Force secondary.
I mean, you can't say, hey, just recruit. I mean, it's Air Force, right? I mean, it's like they have to fit in the plane and, be able to do, like, I don't know, push-ups at 5 a.m. and all that kind of weird stuff. So, good for them. Thank you for your service. But find a DB or two, huh? So, all right. Sneaky big game. And just because this is my preseason upset pick in the Big Ten, and I'm feeling good about it now. Michigan giving the weird 5.5 at home, coming off not a great look at USC. What's interesting, I think, about this too, if I'm just kind of using last week as a little starting comparison, I've got in DeMond Williams probably a more difficult quarterback to defend than Jaden Mayava. Now, USC has superior receivers to Washington, but I'm going to call that a wash with the running threat. I mean, the serious running threat that DeMond poses. I don't know if Washington. I'll put it this way. I think that Washington's defense on the season that's about the level at which USC played last week. I hate to just say rinse and repeat from last week because it's a road versus home game for Michigan. I do kind of like, just to go off the metrics here, I do. Now, I know home is different for a young kid like that, but I kind of do like Ryan Walters in that matchup against Bryce Underwood. I think that he could just kind of make him look green again. My model is just irrationally in love with Michigan. They had them literally at number 1 before USC took them down. My eyeballs don't match with kind of what my model says. I don't know if Washington's the play at this weird 5.5. Maybe, I don't know if money line. This is just a good game to talk about. I can talk myself into all aspects of Washington, and the numbers just tell me differently. So I guess I have to just watch this for the emotional investment I have in terms of this being my preseason upset pick. I have a little ticket on DeMond Williams from the Heisman, and this is a must-win on that. Michigan has 2 losses on the season, right? I think. Yeah, so this would knock Michigan out of the playoffs as well, and I think get Washington deservedly on the map here nationally, which they're not and they need to be. So I just don't know if I feel strong enough to play Washington here, but everything aside from the numbers, every narrative just points to the Huskies. What do you think, Duck?
Yeah, I mean, it seems as though they're being penalized significantly for their home loss against Ohio State, where I thought they played pretty well, kind of got the raw deal on 2 calls that went against them that really kind of opened that one up. But the problem for Washington is they struggle to protect the quarterback. They've given up 35 tackles for loss and 16 sacks this season. What's DeMond Williams getting sacked 16 times for already halfway through the year? Well, Michigan's pass rush is elite, and they're going to come after you. 40 tackles for loss, 15 sacks on the season already. And you look at Washington, their run defensive grades are rough. 14th in the Big Ten. So my concern is, can they stop the run? Are they able to stop the run? Are they able to limit what Michigan wants to do offensively? I don't know. This is again one where I haven't been dying to run to the window to bet this one. I could make an argument that Washington's the better team and will likely win this game on the field, and so I'd be interested in considering throwing them in the money line round robin.
I was
going to
say that.
Nature.
Yeah.
But I could see a couple of narratives here. They struggled on the road badly against Maryland. I mean, if you take a snapshot with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and they're down by 3 touchdowns at Maryland, it looks embarrassing, but they ended up coming back to win that one. Now you kind of get that first conference road game stink off of you. Going back on the road now isn't that big of a problem. But I would imagine that Michigan's probably a little pissed off with how they played really the last couple of weeks. They had embarrassing loss to your Trojans last week in the Coliseum, and then really quite embarrassing the way they played for 3 quarters against Wisconsin. So I would imagine they want to really kind of get back to playing good football. Whether or not that translates to points on the scoreboard, I don't know, but my inclination would be that Washington has a 50-50 chance to win this game, so I would take them on the money line.
Yeah, it's. I was just checking that as you were talking. They're about plus 190. So as weird as that, it's up to 6-2 the spread. So as much as kind of that's in a 5.5 is in a weird territory. The money line corresponding to that's kind of juicy if you do like the dog there. Robert, do you think Michigan bounces back or USC exposed? Like their defense just isn't as good as everybody, including BuckMetrics here, thought going into that game.
No, I mean, straight up, my model likes Washington here. And I mean, outside of my model is your model is a bit more bearish on Washington. Mine just likes them outright. I think outside of that Ohio State game, which was again closer than it seemed, Washington has been pretty good. And again, we talked about Oregon in the last podcast and how they're going to have to win out. Washington's at the end of the season for them. So, like, those last 2 games for Oregon are not easy. Those are basically CFP play-in games. And Washington is not going to be an easy out. Like, we talk about the teams that could make the CFP from the Big Ten. Washington, Nebraska, and USC are very much in that consideration. I think probably 2 of those 3 make it, potentially, depending on the outcome of the USC Notre Dame game. I think they're getting discounted, but I think the SEC is going to do a lot more damage to the SEC in the next couple of weeks. And I think the outcome of that damage is going to be 2 of those 3 make it. So I'm not sure which 2 of those 3 make it, but I think 2 of those 3 make it. I think the Big Ten's going to get 5 teams in the playoffs. So, and I think this is if Washington loses this game, then they're out. They're not going to get in the playoff. But this is the line here. It's that you eliminate Michigan. That's one less spot that they could take. And then you're right in that mix. All you'd have to do is, like, if Washington's losses are Ohio State and Oregon, fairly sure they're the 12th seed, right? Like, if they're the number 1 seed, and what would theoretically be the, like, right? Like, if Washington's losses are just literally Ohio State and Oregon Ohio State's the 1 or the 2 seed or the 3 seed, depending if they lose to Indiana, and Oregon's like the 5th or 6th seed, then what? Their 2 losses in the regular season were the 1 and 5 seeds, and they'll be in 12th, maybe even higher potentially, right? So
yeah, you're probably actually going to make an easier case for Washington than Notre Dame because you're making this the Notre Dame case.
Yeah, this is
but in a tougher overall schedule, being in a conference.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I might just. Might wake up Saturday morning having found myself made a little money line bet on Washington here. Good suggestion there, Doug. I don't know if so Purdue is at Northwestern, giving 3.5. I don't get that. Congratulations, you beat a dying Penn State program. Kind of curious if this has moved since. That's what I'm looking up. Maybe I'm just biased. I like what I see with Purdue in terms of just like the on-field product. It's so much better. Maybe I'm grading from a strange curve here. Again, Northwestern's offense is not much. Maybe Northwestern am I underrating them because they held, I figured this out as I was doing a tweet for the pod. The new CLA, you get that NEU, as in Jerry Neuheisel, new CLA Bruins. Northwestern actually beat them. That wasn't the real Neuheisel, but it was post Deshaun. I just look, and the numbers say don't even bother. This is just it's going to be a rock fight, not a fun one at that. I mean, Robert, our models have kind of just the same thing. It's like 4 touchdowns each side. Don't even bother watching this. I just have an irrational kind of belief in Purdue and Barry Odom. Just they look so much better. And Duck, am I just kind of just too emotional about this just because they're so much better and there's just a belief here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you look at Northwestern and their offensive output this season, it's a team that's struggled mightily to run the football. It's a team that's struggled really at times this season to throw the ball. They have a great explosive receiver in Griffin Wilde, who transferred in from South Dakota State, and he's an electric playmaker. But outside of that, their offense is just kind of very little wow factor. They scored 42 against Western Illinois and 42 against Louisiana Monroe. Obviously, not nearly the caliber of athletes on those teams that they see when they line up in Big Ten play. But their other point totals, 17 against UCLA and 22 against Penn State in a win, and then 14 against Oregon in a loss, both deep into the second half were those touchdowns, and 3 points at Tulane. I just don't see how this team consistently stacks successful plays together to maintain possession of the ball and move the ball into scoring territory enough to get over their team total. Current team total for Northwestern is 24.5. And I just don't see it. You factor that in with the fact that they're in this sort of pop-up stadium that they've made right on the lake. It's going to be windy in Chicago on Saturday, so you're going to have some of that lake wind that blows in. I think passing struggles. I think place kicking struggles here. I think the full game is an under, and I don't see Northwestern surpassing their team total. So I actually have a play on this. Northwestern team total under 24.5.
The pop-up stadium I love. It's like, are they going to close down after Halloween because everybody's got their costumes? There's no need to go there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing that I think really sticks out to me as a vulnerability for Purdue is the pass defense here. I guess I'd kind of say, look, Preston Stone, he's had some really rough games. And I don't know about the receiver that you mentioned, but apparently he's like doing everything because this is not like a good Ryan. And I think, again, my suspicion coming this season is Preston Stone would really not appreciate the downgrading receiving talent he's got there. So I just don't know if Stone can take advantage of Purdue's liability there as much as anything. Again, another one. Now, this is down to 3, but, Robert, I think that this might be another one for where you just take the dog on the money line.
Yeah, I think I already grabbed some Purdue 3.5. Remember that Northwestern is coming off of upsetting Penn State, so there might be some of that number in here, too. I think if there was a game where... Yeah, if there is a game where Northwestern is kind of... And they upset Penn State at home. So, I mean, if you're looking for a spot to fade a team, that's a great spot to fade a team after coming off a massive, theoretically program-defining win, but it wasn't a program-defining win because it was like a mortally wounded Penn State team that they knocked off, but yeah.
It was program-defining, but for the other guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, gosh, we lost to you. It's more like, oh no, it's like, yeah, that Jeff Sims, just as a callback to to an earlier pod. Yeah, no, it's him. It's Jeff Sims, not somebody else named Jeff Sims. Okay, it sounds like we're all in agreement here. Again, that might be a Saturday morning gift under the BuckMetrics Christmas tree here. So, all right, this one I was just looking up has moved. Georgia's now giving 7.5 to Ole Miss. Couple of interesting teams to handicap here. The first thing I'll go down to the predictives here again. Georgia just looks like kind of an ordinary team, ordinary SEC team, I guess I'd say. Really good run defense here, very good on the line of scrimmage, but just overall, when you put it all together in terms of like what to expect, 9.4 is like a pretty good SEC team, but nothing spectacular. And look, Ole Miss isn't that better. And again, I said, look, everybody gets stuck on. I'm going to be guilty of it about what Gunnar Stockton isn't. And, Ole Miss has the better passing game. Clearly the more explosive passing game, which is interesting considering Georgia kind of upgraded, or they thought they upgraded in the portal at the receiver position. Ole Miss defense is not the same here. As I'm talking through it, this kind of sounds like it might be a little more high scoring than I'm thinking. Robert's model has it as a little high scoring here at 62. My model, again, this is one of those where my model basically has, either no play or Georgia. Look, I'm not going to argue with my model, just kind of my eyeballs just kind of tell me that Ole Miss is I was on the Four Horsemen pod to discuss the USC Notre Dame game, and we picked a few games, and I picked just Ole Miss straight up here. Again, not to just kind of make this a recurring gag on this episode. Ole Miss has better than a puncher's chance here. Now you're talking about a money line as a touchdown plus favorite. Maybe just kind of just throw a little bit on Ole Miss and just make it a little fun watch there. Does that sound about right, Duck?
It's such an interesting game here because when you look at... I'm just trying to get my notes on this one, which I'm struggling to... Here we go. The line has escalated so much. Like, I think it's 7.5 or 8 now in favor of Georgia. The question really becomes, what do we think of Ole Miss? Do we think they're a legitimate top 10 team? And where are the significant advantages for Georgia here in this matchup? The schedule advantage, in my opinion, goes to Ole Miss. They're off the bye week, and then it looks apparently like last week they took an elected bye when they chose not to show up against Wazoo.
Yes.
And, you look at Georgia and the teams that they've played on their schedule, and they've just got so many of these max effort grinders that they've had to play week in and week out, which can wear on you. Alabama, they were in a battle with Kentucky for some time at Auburn last week, and just a complete 60-minute grinder. So, schedule-wise, I would assume that Ole Miss is well-rested and ready to go here and have probably been preparing for this game for 3 weeks. The trench play. Georgia has been getting whipped at times. Surrendered 35 tackles for loss this season for the Georgia O-line, and the defensive line only has 8 sacks. Georgia has 5 total sacks in 4 SEC games this season. This is not the vaunted Georgia front 7 pass rush, get to the backfield, live in the backfield that we're used to seeing. You look at some of the other metrics, third down defense significantly down from prior seasons, allowing 40% successful third down conversions. Just 6 turnovers forced this season for Georgia. Way down from priors. I just don't think the Dogs strike fear into anyone defensively.
Yeah.
And the offense is just lacking so much explosiveness that I kind of think that Ole Miss is able to hang around in this one and keep this game close. So I have not wagered on this game yet, but I would lean to think that Ole Miss can throw a punch here.
Yeah, as you're going that, you kind of brought to mind something that I've talked about with Robert a few times about Gunnar Stockton. The whole discussion is what Gunnar Stockton isn't. And Robert, maybe just let me kind of throw this theory at you. We've kind of said, well, they don't trust Gunnar Stockton. With their inability to protect, maybe it's like they don't trust their pass blocking, and basically they just say, get it out quick. We can't do any of that dynamic stuff. Does that kind of hold water?
Yeah, that definitely does. And I think there is some issues on the Georgia offense. This Georgia offense is nowhere near as dominant as we've seen it in the past. But I honestly think the biggest difference between this Georgia and other Georgias is the defense. Like, okay, yeah, they shut down Auburn, only allowing Auburn 10 points. But, like, a ton of points against Tennessee, 25 against Bama. Like, I think the defense is kind of an under-discussed part of this, and I'm fairly sure Ole Miss is the best or the second best offense they're going to face other than Alabama. Arguably a better offense than Alabama, right? Like, this is the thing, Georgia feels to me a little overrated. It's just kind of like, yeah, they lost to Bama, and then for some reason people just accepted that and moved on. It's like, no. Like, they almost lost to Tennessee there. Then they lost to Bama. This team should not be that high. And I think that maybe people are just... Now, Ole Miss is also due for a loss here, too. But I think their scare was this week against what was last week, against Washington State. So I think it's... Basically, Georgia is due for something bad to happen. Again, like, they still feel they're massively overvalued. I don't think this Georgia team is that good, and I think this is potentially where they could get exploited. So, yeah, give me Ole Miss here.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Just as I talked through it, this kind of makes us sound like the squares or the suckers, in that you've got, and again, it's not a huge difference, but you've got Ole Miss is 2 spots ahead of Georgia in the coaches poll, 4 spots in the AP poll, and they're getting a touchdown. And I almost feel like now I'm kind of feeling like a sap, just saying, oh boy, I've got a top 5 team, I'm getting a touchdown. I guess to your point, yeah, maybe Georgia doesn't feel like a top 10 team, right?
I don't think it is. I don't think Ole Miss is either, but again, someone has to be 10th. There have to be 10 teams that like again, this is the argument, the perennial argument we have, where it's like these 5 teams should be in the top 10, and like that's it. There should be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, and it's just like that's what I feel like this year is.
Yeah. Does that make sense to you, Duck? About like it feels kind of suckerish, but then maybe not because Georgia's just rated too high. Does that sound about right?
Well, I don't really think Vegas honestly cares about the ratings as far as like the AP ratings and the public perception. It does feel a lot more squarish, in my opinion, to bet on Ole Miss. I think they could have set this line at really whatever they would have wanted, and I think they're going to attract the 7.5 is just begging and begging and begging for Ole Miss money. So I'm a little bit wigged out on that here. I think there's a chance that. Yeah, maybe it's the wrong side, but sometimes you're on the wrong side. You just got to. I would want to make my bet based on the metrics and how do the matchups work in whose favor, and what's Lane Kiffin going to pull out of his hat, and he's got something up his sleeve. I'm certain of that, but. They could have made this 6.5, and then it says, well, everyone's begging for Georgia money, so what is the right line? Maybe the right line's 13.5, and people still run to the window and bet Georgia because you get it under 2 touchdowns. I don't know. But plus 7.5 does seem like the books are begging for Ole Miss money.
Let me ask you both this, and I'll start with you, Doug, then we'll go to you, Robert. You have Ole Miss offense, Ole Miss defense, Georgia offense, Georgia defense. Which unit breaks in this game? Which one cracks and loses the game? Duck, you first.
Well, I mean, Georgia's offense has been one that has been sporadic. Could have cost them against Auburn, and their defense could have cost them against Tennessee, and did cost them at times against Alabama. So, I don't know. I still don't think this Georgia defense is what it once was, so I would say probably maybe that unit would be the one to falter.
Wow. Okay. Robert, you seemed anxious to answer. What do you say?
I kind of think it's going to be Georgia's defense. I don't think they're that good. I think Ole Miss was pretty able to effectively shut down LSU's offense. They've been able to do. Is Georgia's offense that much better than LSU's? Maybe it's a little better, but I mean they only scored 20 against an Auburn team that has a good defense. But like. I don't think Georgia is that much better on offense than LSU is. Their defense is probably better, but I think Georgia's defense is the thing most likely to crack here. And I will just say that that basically from the betting lines, because if you look at some of the ones on Twitter, I was looking up as we were talking here. They're saying that Georgia's been getting some sharp action, so that's what's been pushing the line out. So now that doesn't necessarily mean that. It doesn't say where the public money is or not, but if you told me the public money was on Georgia, that might not be crazy to me.
Yeah, you know what? I'm looking up here now. Ty Simpson, not to spoil. I don't know if this does spoil anybody's midseason Heisman. Ty Simpson, Georgia limited him to 24 points. Not that it's him, but his team, and he is I think demonstrably a good quarterback. I will also say you might remember that for a while, Mr. Joey Aguilar, late of the Sun Belt, really had his way with this defense for quite a while until, again, Kirby went like bad guy wrestler and grabbed the brass knuckles out of his trunks and, hit the guy in the eye and 1, 2, 3 and just got away with it again. You know what? He just gets away with it a lot. That's the way to say it. He's getting away with it. I bring that up because I don't think they've seen anything close to Trinidad Chambliss in terms of an opposing quarterback. I might actually argue that, and just half seriously and half goofy, but actually a bit of seriousness. He's probably not the same quarterback now, but probably one of the better quarterbacks they faced was Carlos Del Rio Wilson, who was in the top 10 somehow.
Right? Like this is the thing, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
I like what they did against Simpson, but otherwise, you guys, I kind of asked a good, insightful question there. You convinced me. I think that might be the way to go. So maybe if there's a game MVP, it feels like it's Trinidad Chambliss then, yeah?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. All right. I think this is is this a 12:30 game? Pacific? 3:30 where you guys are? Yeah.
I think it's 3:30 Eastern.
So it's before. It doesn't. It overlaps. I think then does not overlap with USC Notre Dame. So yeah, this will be a good watch. All right, that was good and meaty because there's a lot of pieces, a lot of narrative there. On the other end of the spectrum, hey, good luck figuring this out. Penn State at Iowa given 2.5.
It's 3.5.
This
now.
is okay. I mean, I still don't know. I don't know what to do. I mean, this is just fun to talk about. I guess the first thing is kind of like a rivalry, but completely unlike a rivalry because the reasons why, basically because the coach was fired and the quarterback is out. You kind of have to throw out all the metrics here, right? All the numbers on both sides.
I think so. My model, interestingly enough, so the look ahead on this line, I think, was Iowa -2, despite everything the line has not moved, which is pretty damning for Drew Aller. But it's just like, yeah, your replacement is no better against the spread. Now, maybe there's... I don't actually know that'd be an improvement, theoretically, because it'd be like... I don't even know what that would be, but yeah, I'm not sure if that's an improvement or a negative on Drew Aller, but probably a negative on Drew Aller. I kind of think this is the fired coach bounce. Apparently, Drew Aller is, like, done, so, like, literally, not, obviously out for the season, but, like, this is basically his last season in college, which everybody kind of expected anyways. The question is, what specifically was Penn State trying to do? And I'm assuming that they had some sort of plan to replace him, maybe on the roster, and if that might be, this is now some kid's chance to be the starting quarterback for Penn State next year, right? So whoever the backup is, like before, if it was like, if Drew Aller was leading them through the season and leading them to the playoffs, that theoretical path that was supposed to happen. If that was happening, This kid's just sitting there on the bench, right? So he's like, maybe I get my shot, maybe I don't, maybe I have to transfer, maybe they'll transfer someone in, right? Get someone from the portal. But now you got a shot. So now it's Iowa, so that's not particularly fun. But maybe this team responds to the firing of Franklin, because again, I think very clearly this team just completely fell apart after that Oregon loss. It's so clear that team just completely fell apart, and I think that now this team might actually be starting to put something together here. So, I'm gonna give it to Penn State. I think this is up to 3 and a 3.5 now. I think, right, Doug?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you're shopping, but at 2.5, 3.5, I think you can find either side of it. To be honest with you,
what are
3 at DraftKings, 3.5 at other places, 2.5 at other places. So, yeah, kind of all over the place.
where do you have this one?
Well, you have to account for a lot of it. You have to account for now the fact that the head coach has been fired 17 days after they were the third-ranked team in the country. The quarterback is no longer not on the roster. The backup quarterback, who should have probably been kept, was run out of town and is now playing at Missouri, Pribula. And Penn State's a mess. I mean, it's embarrassing enough that you lost at UCLA, but it's equally as embarrassing that you're now back at home to try to save your season and you lose as 3-touchdown favorites to Northwestern, who couldn't move the football on hardly anybody. And so I don't have any idea what to make of this team here. And, the real look, like in the summer, this was like Penn State -9.5, but like even just 2 weeks ago, it was still like -4.5. So this line has swung significantly. Problem with Iowa is how many points can you lay with an inept passing game against this? This is still a good defense. This is still a good Penn State defense. The only way that I would play this, the total's ticking back up again. It was 38.5, 39.5. We're seeing 40.5, some 41 out there.
Yeah.
I'll take a first half under 20 or a first quarter under 7.5 is the way I would play that one. I just don't think we'll see any explosive plays on either side. Neither one of these teams is going to be able to pass the ball very effectively. You talk about a slow-burning grinder. Like 15 years ago, Penn State and Iowa played a game that was 6-4 final. 2 field goals, 2 safeties. 6-4 was the final. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case, but it might be 9-10. This is going to be a slow-burning grind.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. obviously these players love Franklin, and when something like that happens, you want comfort food. I don't think a road game in Iowa is anything close to comfort food. This is probably like the worst spot you could imagine. Like for, okay, let's move on. Let's go back to what we're comfortable with, because nobody's ever comfortable at Iowa. And now you have a guy that's going to get his quarterback's going to his first career start, and as I mentioned, he's going to have no running game to bail him out. Iowa is I think they're number 6 in the run defense metric that I have, the defensive GGAB plus. Yeah, Gronowski is really not a good quarterback, but my gosh, I'm just thinking about new quarterback, and we kind of figured out that Penn State's problem on offense was just cowardly play calling. If we thought it was cowardly before, my gosh, watch out. This could just go back to like 1968 playbook, just like 2 yards and another 2 yards of a cloud of dust. I mean, just back to back. They've got to be hiding this on the Big Ten Network, right? Or is this on maybe Peacock?
Should be on Nickelodeon.
Well done. Man, yeah, this, I'm just dying to figure out where this one is. Bear with me for 1 second, folks. Where are you? Start at the bottom for Penn State. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's on Peacock. They're really hiding this one. Okay. Yeah, I don't know who outside of basically, the 2 fan bases is going to just kind of, go over to the app to watch this. Yeah, I think the under's a pretty safe play here as much as anything else. Kind of surprised about this defensive GGAB plus for Jim Knowles' defense at 62. That's kind of USC territory, and that's not a good thing. So, okay, one of those classic rivalries. It is the third Saturday of October, which is also, you might remember, Robert, in the first full year of the podcast. I actually mentioned that it was at the Tennessee-Alabama game where Tennessee debuted what is now their school song, Rocky Top. The band played it, and it was a big hit, and that became the school song. Because that was actually country music, or it was a bluegrass hit way back when. So this is an interesting one. If I'm looking just at the metrics here, this seems close. The metrics say quarterbacks are about even here. Tennessee a little better in the run game. Tennessee, about these teams are the same, the explosiveness in the passing game. Alabama better pass defense. Tennessee a better run defense. I know it's a rivalry. I just think these are 2 programs in 2 totally different spots. Basically, one of them has one of the best quarterbacks in the entire TFS FBS, and the others should probably be back. On any given day, might be better off back in the Sun Belt. And I think this is a defense that can make him look that way. My model has Alabama by 14. Athena has them by 12. Once again, Robert's model just wants to ruin the party here and just says, "Yep, I got Tennessee by a touchdown here." Notwithstanding just how the descriptives up top have it, I think Alabama's defense, I think, is going to make things tough for Joey Aguilar. I could see this one actually getting out of control pretty quick, and I don't like Aguilar in this venue. This is not an easy place to play. I know it's not like Nick Saban, Alabama, but it's not like you're playing. No offense, it's not like you're playing at Bowling Green or some easier venue. So I think if there's a play here, it's Alabama. I know that sounds super square, caveman like ugh, high team give less than 10 points. But Robert, is it really that simple? Maybe.
I'm going the opposite way. I bet Tennessee already. I think I got 9.5 on a look ahead, and I'm tempted, if it goes back up a tad more, I'm tempted to grab more Tennessee. The thing is, my model has very clearly said Alabama is not a good team. It's very clearly drawn a line, and it's also very funny because the model also said Alabama over Georgia. So take from that what you will. But no, look, Missouri almost took down Alabama last week. That was not a comfortable win. It was an interception late. Missouri was driving down the field. They won by 3. That could have gone the other way pretty easily. Alabama lost to a Florida. Now, this is where my model might be penalizing them a lot for Florida State. Just like every week, that just keeps dragging them down as Florida State continues to regress hard to the mean.
Yes.
But I don't know. Tennessee is actually not bad, right? And Tennessee was very, very competitive. I actually arguably should have beaten Georgia in that game, right? So if you start trying to like triangulate it, this game should be pretty close. This game should be within a score, and I kind of think that Tennessee could win it. Heupel has had a pretty good history here against Bama. They upset them a couple of years ago. Last year they did. I think Bama beat them, but I think it was still barely, if I remember correctly. I don't think it was a blowout last year. Or no. Tennessee won last year. It was 2 years. It was like 3 years ago. This rivalry has kind of gone back and forth on alternating years. Tennessee has been very competitive against this Bama team. This is not Bama versus Tennessee of old. I kind of like Tennessee here. I'm taking it. I'm 100% with my model on this. I understand why you might not be with it, but I'm on Alabama here. I'd love to hear Duck's take on this.
Can I just 3 responses and I'll throw it to him? Number one, I think we all can agree. Nick Saban completely ruined this rivalry, right? I mean, This is like fun before he came in and just said, "Nah, this isn't gonna be fun anymore." So, like Nick Saban, literally the greatest of all time. Appreciate everything he does. I think he's a good commentator too. But boy, he just took the fun out of this. So glad that this is back to like being fun. Robert, the Alabama fans are over the Florida State game. Tell your model to get over it, okay? Please. They're past it. Duck.
The fans moved on. The AP moved on.
Yes. Duck, is Robert gonna regret having backed one Joseph Aguilar on the road in this one?
Well, it looked a little jerky when they went to Mississippi State. Took a miracle to win that game in overtime, and now Alabama's off revenge. I am assured that they're remembering last year's loss. And, I can understand factoring in some of the poor play in the season opener against Florida State, but as this season goes on, it means less and less and less, or it should. I mean, Alabama has won and covered 5 straight, and if their quarterback's name was Ty Manning instead of Ty Simpson, this Heisman Trophy would be over. This quarterback is absolutely elite. He doesn't make mistakes. He can make all of the throws. They're very dynamic offensively. And Alabama's really run through the gauntlet. If you look at what they've had to go out and do, max efforts every week. A grinder against Georgia, a grinder against Vanderbilt, a grinder against Missouri. Like in the trenches every week, just having to fight and scrap and claw for their life. And that continues with Tennessee. You go to South Carolina, you got LSU and Oklahoma on the slate. Like, this is just absolutely brutal. But I still don't know necessarily that Alabama is fully there defensively. They're giving up 5.5 yards per play. They're 129th nationally in defensive finishing drives. They have the 3rd worst pass rush in the conference per PFF. And kind of just middle of the road in many of the other defensive metrics in the SEC. Only 9 sacks for Alabama this season, and 4 of those came against Wisconsin. So you're not really getting a ton of pass rush, and that's how you kind of mess it up against Joey Aguilar. When you look at Tennessee's offensive line play this season, it has been exquisite. They've only given up 4 sacks and only 17 tackles for loss against them this season, while the offense has averaged 5.3 yards per carry on the ground. And Tennessee's playing really well on 3rd down, converting 50%, and in the red zone as well. 32 out of 34 red zone trips have resulted in scores. So the real concern, or the question to determining who I think will cover this game, is can Alabama's defensive line control this game and put pressure on Sunbelt Joey to make mistakes and panic decisions? Because when he's under duress, when he's on the move, the decision-making becomes deteriorated. It just gets worse. Now, I can't answer the question, so I haven't bet on the game. I don't know if they can impact the game this way because Tennessee's offensive line has overperformed and Alabama's has underperformed. With both of these defenses struggling after teams cross the 40-yard line in finishing drives, I kind of see this ending up like one of those old SEC shootouts where the defenses just completely fall apart. We see explosive after explosive. we see a game akin to what we saw Tennessee play with Georgia earlier this season, 41-44. I do see scenarios where both these quarterbacks go tit for tat with each other, and we see haymakers thrown in the second half, and it comes down to the wire. I wouldn't be opposed to Robert's take there. I don't think Joey Aguilar is necessarily overly great, but the offensive line has played well, and Alabama's D-line has not put people in the vice grips like we're used to seeing them doing.
Interesting. You were going somewhere. I thought you were going to go somewhere else, and this is in, I think, both of your guys' lexicon, not mine. But would it maybe be interesting, kind of maybe about 10 minutes of game time into this one, just to see, okay, if Alabama's kind of having their way, or not having their way, but just doing more than their share against the Tennessee offensive line, maybe just make an in-game play on Alabama before the score. I mean, if that's it, just, when you were saying, like, I totally get this. If that's a determining factor, if it looks like that's going to be their day, Alabama on the front defensive front seven, would that be like kind of just the thing to look at, or am I just a rookie trying to act like a veteran here?
Well, I don't think that's bad at all, no, and I want to play Alabama. This has just quietly been, now with the second, you get more time in the seat in the DeBoer offense. He's got his offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, back with him, and you're just starting to see a little bit more of kind of the offense settling in and getting just a lot more accustomed to what he wants to do. And sneakily, Alabama is very, very good. I'll be stunned if they lose this game on the field, but I still just, Robert's right. They've been in squeakers. Even that Vanderbilt game was such a squeaker, a game they should have lost. Pavia fumbled at the 5-yard line, and they threw an interception on the 10-yard line. Otherwise, there's 2 touchdowns there. You factor out that goofy backdoor or front door cover where they scored with 20 seconds left, and it's Vanderbilt could have won that game. And
I think this SEC guy says that just shows the depth of our conference. Okay, get over it.
Well, I think Vanderbilt. I think if you look at the totality of Vanderbilt's season and what they're going to do the rest of the way, you have to consider them at large to make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Yep. Under head coach Jerry Kill, I might add, right?
Associate head coach.
There's one guy that's making a difference there, and it's not the guy with the headphones and shaved head there. I'll just tell you that. It's my guess. So, all right, Robert. Anything else on this one?
No. I think we're
You've
good.
made your case. Okay, I might talk to you afterwards about maybe just booking your action directly if you want to do any more on that one. So.
All right.
All right. 2 words. Holy war. Utah is at BYU. Rivalry game. A lot of rivalry games for October. Surprisingly, good games this week. This is your night game. I've made the case that BYU is kind of overlooked this season, or at least underappreciated. I'm still. I'll put it this way. Devin Dampier can win me over in this game. How about I frame it that way, just to put a positive spin on it. I say that because I'm not really buying this, BYU quarterback who looks like he's 12 years old and
wears number 47.
Yes, and aspires like maybe in 10 years he can grow a beard that rivals Duck's, because he's not there yet. He's not even close.
Well, I couldn't grow until I was 33.
Okay, well he's got 15 years then apparently. I mean, this guy's a kid. He's I don't know if he's
a baby.
He's a babyface assassin or just a babyface baby. He's getting it done, though. This is not unlike Retzlaff, too. Let's just remember. Retzlaff wasn't like, he wasn't Baker Mayfield. He just kind of ran. He wasn't like the best passer in the world. BYU's getting it done, and they're good on both sides of the ball. These teams are a bit mirror image-ish. I just think, I guess if I go down to the predictives here, I just buy BYU's defense more than Utah's at this point. I don't want to oversimplify it, but that's really it. It's hard for me to imagine. I don't know why, and I might just kind of I don't know. I might just be taking a lot more convincing when it comes to Utah for some reason than another here. But, just my gut tells me, my eyeballs and what I've seen of both teams just makes me think in congruence with the numbers that BYU is just the better team straight up here. I just don't get them getting a field goal plus at home. My model has BYU by touchdown. Athena has them by 4. And once again, this is why it's a great discussion point. Robert's model has Utah by the common margin of 5. BYU's. I wouldn't want to get in front of this. I'm going to sound like the SEC guy now. 3.5 points is a lot to give. Not really, but I don't want to give that to BYU here. I know BYU didn't have their greatest game last week against Arizona on the road. I think there's probably a tendency to look ahead, especially when your quarterback's 12 years old and probably has problems focusing on the task at hand at times. I don't know if I'm going to bet it, but boy, it just seems like BYU is the sharp side here. And I know, Robert, your model is different, so you agreeing with your model or
Yeah, I'm not playing this again. 3.5 for that is not enough for me. That's too small of a margin, but it's only a 1.5. But no,
Yeah.
I like Utah here. I kind of think BYU is a little overrated. Okay, they peeled apart West Virginia. Okay, other people did that too. That's not a.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, that's not. I'm not giving you an award for that. You almost beat you beat Arizona in overtime. Okay, I think. Who did that? Kansas State did that, or someone else beat Arizona this year already. That was like Arizona's second loss, I think. So, again, no, they beat Kansas State. Someone else beat Arizona this year so far. I can't remember who it was.
Iowa State.
Iowa State. There you go.
Yeah.
I knew it was someone else. So no, this BYU team is okay, but I'm not like, oh man, this BYU team is just great. The Utah team, they seem to have gotten over the whole Texas Tech game. They seem to be a bit better in the last couple of weeks. They took apart Jeff Sims, which, to be fair, they should have done anyway.
Yes, that again falls under you're supposed to do that.
Yes, as expected. But again, I just kind of think I don't think BYU is that good. I understand why they're rated where they are, but I think that the Utah team has a very good opportunity here to expose them. It is a rivalry game. I'm not touching it for that reason, but I think the right play here is Utah.
What do you think there is to expose? Is it the 12-year-old quarterback, or is their defense isn't as good as I think?
I think it's probably the quarterback. I don't think they've played any particularly good defenses. I also think their defense looks a little too good. I think, again, they haven't played really good offenses or really good defenses, so I think their numbers are a bit inflated. I'm fairly sure Devin Dampier is just a better quarterback than theirs. So although the numbers don't officially say it, I think that's my model at least thinks that's true. So, yeah.
Also, you've got a quarterback and wide receiver combo brothers, one named Bear, one named Tiger, for whatever that's worth, which is just awesome. Duck, I think I figured out. You weren't with us last week, and just to draw the curtain back a little bit, just sorry to kind of expose you, Duck, here. Doug was holding out with a little contract issue. They got that ironed out with the Sharpest Sports executives, and congratulations. I think you got like a bobblehead promotion out of it. So everybody get your
just need a $40 million buyout.
I was gonna make that. I was gonna make a $56 million buyout joke. He just beat me to it.
Okay. So, anyways, yes, please go ahead.
You've seen the movie Moneyball?
Yes.
Yes.
Where he's in the cage taking his hacks. I think it's David Justice. And Brad Pitt comes downstairs and tries to talk to him about, hey, why don't you talk about what we're trying to do here and embrace it? And he goes, man, you're not paying me $5.7 million to whatever. And he goes, no, we're not paying that. The Yankees are paying you $5 million not to play for them.
Yes. So when Isaiah kindly filled in for you as you were going through that last week, I kind of made the whole case. I think this still holds true. I said I don't buy Utah against Arizona State because their best win is West Virginia. And I think that still is the case because Jeff Sims' Arizona State is kind of West Virginia, but, in a nicer area with more lovely ladies around you. So I think that's it. I'm going to the best win thing. So I still think it's BYU here. Now, what do you think about this one?
I think BYU has been living on voodoo, good fortune, luck. They've played Portland State, Stanford, ECU, Colorado, West Virginia, and Arizona. Every conference foe that they've played has been picked to be in the bottom 5 of this super conference. And they were down 2 scores against Colorado and dead to rights against Arizona. Should have lost both. ECU outplayed them significantly, if not for throwing an interception in the red zone and then on their 2-yard line throwing a pick 6. ECU would have been leading that game at half. And I just don't see it with BYU. I think BYU is very well coached. I think you get those 90 guys in the same brotherhood to try to band together. A lot of them are very old. They do the whole Mormon thing with the leave and then come back. So many of them are married. They all have beards. They're 24 years old. So there is something there with them. But they are absolutely a fraud, in my opinion, and I still think BYU is going to end up with 4 losses this season. I am convinced that all the hard teams are left to play. Utah, Texas Tech, TCU, at Cincinnati. They're not winning any of these games. Utah's 3rd nationally in offensive success rate, 12th in finishing drives. 28 of 29 red zone trips for the Utes have resulted in scores in general. 26 of those have been touchdowns. 6th in preventing havoc and negative plays. 10th in early down success. The defense has performed exquisitely. Only 5 red zone touchdowns this season by all opponents. And no team has more than 1 red zone touchdown against Utah this season. Just so much voodoo and goofy stuff for BYU. If you look at the snapshot of where they were at in the middle of the 3rd quarter, the ECU game, it got away from ECU. But BYU still didn't play very well. Should have lost to Colorado or could have. I mean, that's not a good sign. Arizona had them dead to rights, and they couldn't finish the job. And I just don't see this bunch as having enough explosivity offensively. I still don't believe that Bachmeier's that good or that developed yet at quarterback. Mm-hmm. And the defense is sound. They don't give up big plays. They can run the ball and just hand it off and lean on L.J. Martin to run it. But that ain't going to work against Texas Tech, TCU, and teams that can throw the ball. And I think Utah has a major opportunity. You talk about the prove-it game. Yeah, they kind of failed in the first one, although that was a 3-point game in the 4th quarter. Came out later that Dampier was hurt. Yeah, maybe that's an excuse. I don't know. But this is a massive prove-it game for Utah. I know there's going to be heated. These 2 programs don't like each other. It's a major rivalry game. But you talk about Utah stamping their ticket to the playoffs, saying we belong. This is it on Saturday night. I know it's in Provo. I know everyone's going to be drinking their Dr. Pepper and all the different stuff they do there, and that's fine. But I think Utah's going to win this game, and I think they could win by double digits.
Wow. Okay. You make a strong case. Let me just say one other thing. I'm remiss for not mentioning this at the top when I kind of did my overview of this. I have to just reference the quote about this rivalry. I believe the gentleman's name, he was a defensive lineman for Utah. His name was Bradley Anai. And he was asked about this rivalry game in I believe it was Pac-12 Media Day. They said, what's that game at BYU like? And he said, there is nothing worse than playing in front of 60,000 sober white people. So, for whatever that gets you, it's the Dr. Pepper I get. So, yeah, you guys make a good case. Night game, I don't know if there's anything else that really competes with this in terms of my viewership, so probably watch this one on the balcony with a couple of cigars in tow here. So, good one to watch. Yeah, you know what? It'll be interesting to see if it does, if this does get away. I could actually see that getting away from BYU. So, good discussion, gentlemen. And with that, in lieu of the usual Q&A quacks, we are going to do our Our mid-season awards. We are halfway through the season, 7 weeks through a 14-week regular season. We've got 5 awards to award each of us. So we'll start with the mid-season Heisman. I'll just kind of mix it up here. Robert, who is your mid-season Heisman going to?
Fernando Mendoza.
Oh, cannot argue with that. It's just he kind of literally took the baton at the end of that game from Dante Moore, right?
It's weird, right? Because the other candidates, if you look at like the betting favorites, it's like Mendoza, Ty Simpson, and Carson Beck. And like I just you can make arguments that Ty Simpson's looked very impressive. That's fine, but that Florida State game, right? What was Mendoza's, like, the Iowa game? They still won that game. The Old Dominion game. Old Dominion looks pretty good too, right? Like, any point you can, like, but the thing is, Ty Simpson has nowhere near the dominance of the Illinois game or the Oregon game, right? So,
yeah, fair.
It's Mendoza for me.
All right, Duck, your midseason Heisman.
You know, the guy who, I'm going to answer this 2 ways, and this is not what you want to hear probably, but the guy that I think is deserving of the award right now is Ty Simpson, based on his play on the field.
Okay. And your award, because this is Duck's midseason Heisman.
Julian Sayin has played exquisite football for Ohio State. Absolutely tremendous football. Very advanced as a passer. Week to week, you see him getting so much better. He looked like a deer in the headlights against Texas in the opener. And from where he was to where he's at today, every single game he's getting better. He's getting more poised. Ohio State's going to be a real tough out. And a lot of it is due to him.
Yep. Agree. I thought literally about all 3 names that you guys have mentioned, and I kind of got actually stuck the most on Sayin.
Yeah.
When I was trying to come up with mine, and I'm still going to go with mine, because he's been at the top of the Apex list for anybody that doesn't play for an academy and actually plays like kind of normal football, if you will, colloquially. I'm going Jaden Mayava. They've lost 1 game, and if he had any role in that, it's literally like he scored too soon against Illinois. Oh my gosh, you're too good at your job. How dare you? You know, it's not conventional, but I don't think it's a stretch. You know, just backing it by the numbers, and he's not even close to the same guy that he was last year. And yeah, he's got some really nice pieces to work with, but he's doing it exquisitely well. So, okay, Duck, your coach of the midseason. I'm going to grab my dog here. He's having a little fit. Come here.
He's enjoying the discussion.
He is.
So, there are 3 names that I wanted to discuss, and I'm going to land on one. I wanted to talk Tony Elliott. I wanted to talk Brent Key. But I think the guy who has done more with less, that has absolutely led the troops, put the team on the map, invigorated life into their program, Alex Golish is an exquisite coach at South Florida and has done an absolutely incredible job overcoming adversity, going into hostile environments, beating tough teams. If South Florida gets to the playoff, I think they could be real tricky for a couple of teams. I'm not saying they're going to win the whole thing, but they could be real tricky for a couple of teams.
Yeah. For starters, mine. I would not want to do that. They would run circles around my defense. I thought you were going down the path of my guy until you said put him on the map.
Yeah.
And then I knew it wasn't going to be mine, because here's a big hint. Right here. Jerry Mack. Are you kidding me? I mean, this team, I crapped all over them all of last season. This was a horrible team. They were not ready for FBS. I mean, they weren't even close to being ready. And my gosh, They're undefeated in Conference USA. They have the top offensive rating, the top power rating, and they are
They're going to win
undefeated.
the league.
They could make the conference title. That's not a stretch. They just embarrassed with a capital E Louisiana Tech. I'm serious here. Jerry Mack, in terms of the Sharpest college football podcast context, my guy. Robert.
Yeah, see,
Sorry, Duck, you want to say something there?
Oh.
We could do this conference by conference, and that would be fun, because your other guy in the MAC is really putting together a strong season, too.
Are you talking about Mr. Lance Taylor?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know this is going to sound kind of chalky, and the thing is, again, I really wish there was you could distinguish between like G5, because they're G5 and P5, but like I gotta say Signetti. I know it sounds chalky, but like the big knock on them last year was they couldn't get that big win, right? They couldn't beat Ohio State in the regular season, and they couldn't beat Notre Dame in the playoffs. Well, they've proven that wrong now. They took down Oregon convincingly, demolished a good Illinois team by a bigger margin than Ohio State did, right? Like, I kind of think this Illinois team, I mean, it's very clear this Illinois team is better, Indiana team. This Indiana team is better than last year's. And I think of probably any Power 4 team, that, with maybe the exception of Miami's defense, just Miami's defense, they made the biggest thing. And yeah, I gotta go Signetti. I'd love to have picked a G5 one, but I've got to say that the Signetti is still he's still there. He's still at the top for me.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I guess the only pushback I would have is I'm not gonna punish. I'm not gonna say, "Wow, a guy just wasn't really it last year," because he lost to the national champion and the national runner-up. That's kind of silly. People still don't, you know what I mean? I'm not saying you, but like I see, some people just saying, well, this is totally different. I think the backing it up after year one, that just shows he isn't as elite as, we thought. All right. This could be quick unless we want to get creative. There's a couple names I had for the midseason Jimbo. I just want to give an honorable mention to Trent Dilfer. I guess I almost wanted to put a rule that it couldn't be somebody fired, but just, this is just, I can't imagine just voting for anybody but James Franklin. That it's just got to be it. If you want to make another case for somebody else, go ahead. Well, but I think that it's his just to claim.
I'm fairly sure I'm James Franklin. Duck, if you're James Franklin, then let's redo this. Let's write a rule that it can't be someone fired, and then we go from there.
Yeah, and I didn't select James Franklin.
Oh.
But can we take a minute to pour one out for our friend Trent Dilfer? And can we please possibly write an email, send a text message, send a pigeon with a note strapped to his leg? UAB has a chance now to wrong the right.
Exactly.
To unravel the mess.
Yep.
It took firing Trent Dilfer, which they just did. I'm assuming the AD will be on their way out. They need to pick up the phone. Buck, who do they need to call?
They go, I guess it's I don't know, I know it's West. It's the one, Bryant Vincent.
Just pick up the phone and say, you know what, man? We got a moving truck coming. We got a blank check. You fill in the amount. We'll make it happen. We need you, buddy.
Yep. Baby, I screwed up. Take me back.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry. We made a mistake. I think you go with your tail between your legs and you make the call.
Yeah.
But.
Yep.
Is there any bigger bonehead in the college coaching circle right now than Jason Candle at Toledo? I mean, what a complete schmuck. 21-0 against Bowling, and I had Toledo that.
Yeah,
and I have not been so much more disappointed in coaching decisions in game than some of the stuff I saw last weekend. And I was on the wrong side of quite a bit, which is unfortunate, but 21-0. Lucian Anderson is quarterbacking Bowling Green. He stinks, and you let it slip away. Shame on you, and such an embarrassment. Second time now as a double-digit favorite that he's lost outright. Toledo has 2 losses in league play. The door's wide open for my MAC preseason favorite, which was Buffalo, to make a real charge here. At some point, I think he's just going to have to go in a different direction. It's about time to pull the plug here on Jason Kendall, in my opinion. The guy's got to go.
That was my other one, then, if we were going to have to go beyond James Franklin. I mean, he's running away with it. It just you know what? I hate to say this. This is almost like a lifetime achievement award. It's sneaky because he's at a well-resourced program and he gets away with a lot of this stuff. I just kind of stumbled into. He's kind of like the Mario of the Mac, where he does less than more. So yeah, agree 1,000%. Robert, are you going to creative and find another one here?
Yeah,
I've got another one.
Yeah, Dabo Sweeney at Clemson. I mean, that one is. It's not fully finished yet because I am, again, very concerned that if Clemson keeps winning games, they're going to rank them again. I'm very concerned about this. This keeps me up at night. But, no, I mean, you were the preseason ACC favorite, your quarterback's one of the favorites for Heisman, one of the favorites for overall first number one. You put up 10 points against LSU. You get embarrassed at Georgia Tech. You almost lose to Troy, a Sun Belt team. You then straight up lose to Georgia Tech, and then you get crushed. Not just lose barely, but you get crushed by a Syracuse team. And you also take out their starting quarterback, and you still continue to lose that game. So no, like, there's not much. If it's not James Franklin, which it has, I think, like, mechanically it basically has to be James Franklin. Yes. But like, if not that, then I think it's got to be Dabo.
Very fair.
I think we also oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, please. Please go ahead.
We really need to take a minute and talk about, and this is sprinkled in every conference. We've seen absolutely bizarre coaching everywhere. We've seen it in the Mountain West with Jay Norvell. We've seen it in the MAC at times. Scotty Walden was coaching for his job tonight. If they would have lost to Sam Houston, you gotta get him out of there. Derek Mason at Middle Tennessee has had some of the absolute worst in-game coaching scenarios play out, and decisions he's made have directly cost the Blue Raiders losses. Jamie Chadwell has done an awful job this year at Liberty.
Yep.
Absolutely atrocious coaching. In-game mismanagement, not pivoting and making halftime adjustments. Very, very, very bad from a good coach.
Yeah. Two things. Number one, Robert, when we're talking about bad coaching here, you can see that this guy's getting excited. He sees a little more activity coming up the firing range from this Canadian guy up there. I'm glad you mentioned Walden because I just kind of just like written him. It's like I'd want to forget him. I don't think he understands the question. Like, he doesn't get the assignment, as they say. It's like he doesn't really get like what you're supposed to do here. I appreciate that. That's a really good call. And two of these guys are in Conference USA as well as my coach of the year. So, okay. Biggest surprise of the midseason. I'll go first on this one because this came completely out of nowhere, and I still don't get it, and I still don't know if it's gonna hang on. And it's not like, I'll put it this way: it's not like Omari Kelly. Just to go to your Derek Mason thing. It's not like Omari Kelly dragging Middle Tennessee to like almost respectability in 1 year. You've got like an apparently sustainably good defense. Now you've got a top 10 receiver at San Diego State, and this all came out of nowhere because they were hopeless and bad, and there was nothing to build on, and I don't get it. And I love Sean Lewis, and I want to say good for Sean Lewis, but it's such a shock. I don't know if it's him or if it's just, I don't know, but this is by far my biggest surprise.
Yeah, I'm not as surprised because I did bet San Diego State's win total over 4.5, which is already secured firmly in hand. I also have them to win the conference. I think they are absolutely live to win the Mountain West. They may not lose another game this season. They can beat Boise State.
And they can do it in different ways, too. They can score or they can play like any kind of... It's weird. It's really weird. Yeah.
But the development of Jaden Denegal throwing deep passes really unlocks a lot for that offense.
That's the thing. Now they found their quarterback, and he was even shaky at the beginning of the year, and that's kind of, I think that was maybe like the kind of last piece to settle in here. Does that kind of sound right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely so. No more Danny O'Neal for him.
Oh, my gosh. No, he's busy working miracles of the bad part in Madison. So, all right. Robert,
great call. San Diego State, great call.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go with Kennesaw State. It's a huge surprise. I mean, you can hire a good coach, and that's again, there's expectations on that, and you can be better. That's fine, but like they won one game last year, right? Like hiring a good coach theoretically when you're basically just a brand new FBS team should only get you so far. The talent didn't exist on the roster. The fact that somehow it does exist is just crazy. Like that's a huge surprise to me. I think also a kind of a tide for the biggest surprise is that like Kent State is like okay-ish.
Yeah.
Right? This is a team that was just like what? And then you get in the Prime Minister of Canada to come in and fixes things right up, right? Like this is no, I mean, but honestly, right? Kent State was horrible last year. Even their offense was horrible last year, and then the offensive coordinator just like continues on, and you're like, well, this is gonna go well, and it actually did go well. You're like, wow, okay. Like there have been some big surprises, and a lot of them in some of these lower leagues.
Yeah, it's like Kenny Burns is the Sean Foster of the MAC, where it's just like you don't think he's doing anything, but he's apparently like getting in the way of everybody that can like do something well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Duck, you didn't give yours yet, did you?
I mean, how about Virginia?
Yeah.
Just completely taking care of business, winning games they shouldn't win. I'll admit I have a 200-1 ticket on Virginia to win the ACC.
Jeez.
And you look down the rest of the way with UNC,
Yep.
Cal, Wake, Virginia Tech, like they are going to run the table.
They need
And
to
they're
Pitt's the one to worry about there, right?
no, they don't play Pitt. It's at Duke is the hedge spot.
Really? I thought they played
Yep,
Pitt this year. No? Okay.
No, UNC, Cal, Wake, Duke, Virginia Tech.
Oh my gosh.
And their loss was against North Carolina State in a non-ACC
Non-conference.
sanctioned bout. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
now I'm going to have to find a way to hedge some on a plus 16.5 when they're playing Miami in the ACC title game. But at 200-1, I won't have much to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's going to come down to them, Miami, and Georgia Tech. None of those
Yeah.
teams play each other, and they're all potentially going to finish undefeated. So who gets the short straw?
Here we go. Tiebreaker conference.
Yeah.
It's like the Big 12.
But I thought
Big 12 for the
Virginia has
second
just
spot.
been Virginia,
Yeah.
the offensive execution. They bow up a little bit defensively when need be. Really have played very, very good football of the majority of the way this season, and very pleasant surprise.
In fairness, Washington State is a dual model play. Now, that's not the same that is winning, but they are getting a generous 17.5. Just a disclaimer for what it's worth. Full disclosure. So, all right. Biggest disappointment of the midseason. I've got a kind of anticlimactic one, and this is informed by my preseason bets, but San Jose State, man, it just seemed like you just had an open walk to the to the Mountain West title game. You had the best returning quarterback. I thought you were going to develop a receiver, and you did. That was like the big thing. Is like, will Eget have anybody to throw to? And I guess if it's the biggest thing, it's like this defense went from really good to just they stink. This is a bad defense, and they give up 35 as Duck mentioned earlier to Wyoming. Shouldn't be happening. It doesn't make sense. So I didn't see that happening at all. So Sparty, you're my biggest Sparty Junior. We will say you're my biggest disappointment of the midseason.
Yeah, there's a lot to pick from here. I think there's no real right answer, but I'll pick one that even was still disappointment implies you like thought something and then you're disappointed by them, but I'll kind of do a like whole media and all people. North Carolina. I mean, we weren't high on them. People were insanely high on them. We were not that high on them, but they've even gone below our low expectations of them by a mile. Like, I think Kansas State was a close one here, but they're starting to come back the last couple of weeks. They somehow beat TCU, so that kind of eliminated them from this. But no, like North Carolina, like it's been really bad. And again, like I was not high on this team. But, like, if you even thought this team could even remotely compete in the ACC, you are massively disappointed in them. And it's even worse than I thought it was going to be. So, yeah, I think they've got to be there.
Yeah, I gotta say we should have mentioned for the midseason Jimbo, at least Mike Lombardi, their GM.
Yeah.
Not a lot of positive reporting on him, basically, the last few weeks. So, yeah. All right, Duck, your disappointment of the midseason.
Yeah, and I'm going to avoid the obvious top 10 preseason Kansas State, Penn State, Clemson
Yep.
that are obviously the major disappointments in college football. You could put Auburn in there. Just blue bloods that have just disappointed. But in my opinion, in the totality of college football, nobody has more resources. Nobody has deeper pockets than Liberty. Nobody has
Yep.
higher expectations for their talent. Nobody has a better system set up to win. And I really was banking on a lot of that with some of the regular season win plays that I made this season, and they have directly cost me two, with Jacksonville State possibly
Yep.
going over, and we counted
Yep.
on them losing to Liberty, and they didn't. And Bowling Green, they lost to Bowling Green. We counted that as a win.
Yep.
And has just been so disappointing to see now what should be a well-oiled offensive operation. You come accustomed to looking at the offense, and you can see with your eyes on the TV what it should look like. We saw it at Coastal Carolina for years with Grayson McCall. You just knew when Coastal Carolina lined up, they're going to do the window dressing motion, they're going to run some read option, they're going to flip it out to the back, they're going to throw the quick passes. Same thing at Liberty, but this year it's just been absolutely terrible. And I mean, there's just no bigger disappointment for me than how that season has played out. Very fortunate to win the game yesterday against New Mexico State. I mean, it's embarrassing when you're talking about losing to Bowling Green and New Mexico State and Jacksonville
Yeah.
State, and you have more money and more talent than anybody in the conference, and you can hardly win a game.
They
So-
literally, I would guess it's not an exaggeration to say, I don't know for sure. I'm guessing that their program probably has more funding than those three programs combined. Is that fair?
Yeah, very possible.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, maybe, do we just need to hit reset and Freeze goes back to Liberty and Chadwell goes back to Coastal and Tim Beck goes back to not being a head coach? That just sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, or maybe Chadwell should coach from the dentist chair like Hugh
There you
Freeze
go.
did, and maybe that'll spark some luck.
Quite
I don't know.
possibly, yeah. So, all right. I think that's it. Anything else that we didn't cover?
No, I think that's pretty
Nope.
much it. Yeah.
All right, that was fun. So, thank everyone for listening and viewing. We appreciate it. We will see you next week. Good luck this weekend, and until then, be well. Thank you all.
Thank you.